Me and VVS were standing in first and second slip in Australia in the third test match in Sydney. We were down and out, we were young players, got 100 and he stayed with us.
I remember that innings so well because I was calling that innings. And you know what we were doing in the course of that innings? We were just pushing our jaw back up like that for the shots that he was playing.
It was unbelievable. I wanted VVS to get a double 100. I wanted Dravid to get a double 100. I wanted Sachin to get a double 100 because that's the only way I win.
There was this young kid playing for India called Harbhajan Singh. He was just standing there and you said, come here. And he trotted up. You know how these little kids are, there's a captain and he's standing like this. And you told me this young man is going to win it for me tomorrow.
Welcome back to Bandhan Bank Connect Season 2, Off the Pitch. I'm Sourav Ganguly and today we speak about something that is at the heart of every great team, and that is trust. Talent wins matches, but trust wins hearts. When people know you believe in them, they go further than they ever thought they could. I have seen players transform when they knew that the captain backed them, not just when they were doing well, but when they were struggling and unsure of themselves. That's when captain came in. Trust is not built in a meeting room or in front of cameras. It is built in quiet conversations, honest feedback, and in the confidence you show in someone when the world thinks otherwise. A team that trusts each other stops playing for individual performances and starts playing for a shared cause. Once again, I'm joined by someone special who has seen teams evolve, not just from one season to another, but through entire era of the sport. Harsha is with me and I look forward to this conversation.
And I'm so happy, Sourav, you brought up this question of trust. Because even in the corporate world where we go and do our talks from time to time, it's an issue that keeps coming up. It's something I've asked you over the years. And having heard from you, I've asked a lot of captains and players around the world. Think of all the leadership qualities, what is the one that you wished your leader had? Or what is the one that you as leader think? It's amazing how often people say trust and honesty. Yeah. And there's two kinds of leadership, isn't there? There's one leadership that comes to you with a designation. You are appointed captain, so guys, I'm captain now, everyone obey what I'm saying. And then there's leadership that comes with trust, when you start to enjoy trust. Because I'll go back to say Leeds 2002. It's an example that's stuck in my mind because nobody wanted to bat that day. The bowlers would have thought, wow, great bowling conditions. When you decide to bat first, the team must have enough trust in you to say, he's taken the decision in the interest of the team, even if it means I have to go out. How long does it take a leader to earn that trust?
And that happens with conversation, as you said. You speak about Headingley. I still remember the night before I met with all my top 6 batters. I said, listen, I'm playing with 2 spinners and I look like a fool if I ask the opposition in. I know it's going to be difficult for the first 2 hours, but do you want to make it difficult the first 2 hours or the last 2 days of the test when it gets tough? And the answer was pretty clear. Let's give it a try. And trust is something which is built over time. It is not just built by talking. It is built by actions. A good team has the captain and the players trusting each other. And that's where honesty comes in. You need to be transparent with players. You need to be friendly with players. And the best thing I did as captain, and I think all of you must understand and try, is that I built a personal relationship. It was not just I'm captain, as you said, and I'm looking from the top and all of you here are here to give exams. My place is secure, yours is not, and I decide your place. It never worked like that. And my message was clear that you and me are on the same page and we work together to make this team successful. I just have the word captain next to me. So it worked that way, and this happens over a period of time because, when you play for your country, the amount of time you're on the road, you are spending more time with them than their families. So it's the daily life, the meeting at the breakfast areas, off the field, at practice, going up to them and asking if everything's okay because everyone goes through difficult periods. And I think that's something which develops over time.
It's so interesting you bring that up because I read when Australia were at their peak, they used to talk about this a lot as well, about understanding the whole person who plays for you. The person who's playing for you is not just an opening batsman, or the person who's playing for you is not just a gun fielder. Maybe he or she is going through personal turmoil. Maybe they're going through a lot. And I'm very happy you mentioned that through conversations, you get to know a player. Is a player nervous? Can you judge? Is a player unhappy? You won't know. And that's why, in corporate life, you talk about 9 to 5 leaders. I don't think there's a 9 to 5 leader, is there?
No, leadership is about having the door open all the time. Till the time you become a captain, until the time you finish at the ground, after the game, in the flight, you want your time off, you want some peace for yourself, but the player wants to speak to you. You have to accept this and move on, or otherwise don't become a leader.
How did you sense that? Is it just through body language? Is it through the way the person's behaving? How do you sense this person looks unhappy for me? Maybe there's some other issue.
See, everyone's tentative. Everyone's nervous, and being nervous is good because they want to perform. And you can make out sitting in the dressing room. You can make out traveling with him. You can make out that he's nervous. He knows that his place is not secure. He knows that he's up. It's like an examination. He might lose his place, and that's where it comes in. I'll tell you a small incident and I was not captain. I was vice captain of the team. Me and VVS were standing in first and second slip in Australia in the third test match in Sydney. We were down and out. We were young players. And VVS had a horrendous toe, didn't get a run. And he's standing next to me and said, I'll go back to India, work on my game, play first class cricket and try and come back. As I kept hearing, and I was vice captain, I said, it's not over yet. You still have one more innings, and the player you are, you don't have to think that far. Think about the next one. Get a 50, get a 70, and we'll make sure that you stay with us. Got 100 and he stayed with us.
I remember that innings so well because I was calling that innings. And you know what we were doing in the course of that innings? We were just pushing our jaw back up like that for the shots that he was playing.
It was unbelievable. And his batting against Australia always went to the next level. So it's about making that player feel comfortable because he's in any way under pressure. No one knows better than the individual that my place is in doubt. I may not play the next test. And then if you're around him and you make it more difficult for him, he'll never going to succeed. And that's where I come back to you all the time. I back players or picked players to succeed. I wanted VVS to get a double 100. I wanted Dravid to get a double 100. I wanted Sachin to get a double 100 because that's the only way I win. I knew them personally. I met them personally, did things for them personally. When they were in difficult situation, the mind isn't working well, something's happening, I went and solved it. The biggest thing about captaincy is solving problems. And I think that's how you develop trust. You must be the person where they can go up and say, I'm having a problem. And I think that's very important in the corporate world. When you hire people, when you ask them to work for you, they should be able to come and tell you that I'm not being able to enter the market, but that cannot be the criteria of you losing the job.
Trust is so important. Even in the corporate world, there's people in sales offices that are far away from head offices where they are having to implement the decisions that are taken in the head office. Now, sometimes suddenly a decision is taken and they'll turn around and say, what? When these people like I'm doing now, they're sitting and sipping coffee and they're making us go and do all the work. Because when you're a leader, you throw challenges at people. I've been at the receiving end of those challenges in my profession. Luckily, in my case, it was something that I didn't believe I was capable of. And people made me do things and I said, Achha, I didn't know I could do this. So constantly leaders are throwing challenges at people. But if the player doesn't trust you, and I mentioned this because I said I've been on the other side, the player will think that he's sending me out to fail. Whereas if you throw a challenge, the player must think, wow, man, captain believes in me. I didn't know I was capable of that.
Yeah.
How do you achieve that balance between or reach that situation where your team knows that when the challenge is thrown, a challenge is coming out of belief?
It's about positivity. It's a process. It doesn't happen only at the time of challenge. You meet him in the hotel lobby. You meet him at breakfast. You meet him at training. Making someone believe that he's good is an amazing power. And that transforms.
But that person must believe also. You must not think, aise hi bol raha hai mere liye.
But when you get to that stage, when you're playing for the country, you're good. Yeah. An average player doesn't play for India.
True.
When you're a CEO of a Bandhan Bank or an MD of a Bandhan Bank, you're not average. You've done this over a period of time. That belief, that faith is there. You have to take it to the next level. It's like the Rishabh Pant, the way he played. There were two ways of looking at it. Either you go and tell him that's not the right way, or you go and tell him that's the right way, but you find your way to be successful. And I think I've always looked at that side of the coin, not on this side. Because clear messaging, information is very important with players and cricketers. And that's the biggest challenge of captaincy is building trust, building faith, and building a relationship over a period of time. It will not happen overnight. It'll go through tough periods because we all are human. We fight, we get angry. I remember Yuvraj played that outstanding innings against Australia, 18-year-old boy in 2000. And the next game against South Africa, I was batting on 140. And he came into bat. I said, it's a semi-final. We'll win this if we put a partnership. He tried to hit Pollock in the air, and luckily the catch was dropped. I gave him the bollocking of his life.
You did?
Oh,
if there were 25 cameras like that now, we would have lifted everything.
Because I used to love him,
Yeah.
and he was like my family. Because I saw so much talent. I remember telling him that you'll be on the next plane back to India tomorrow if you do this again. He went on to get a 40 in no time. He was so gifted, so talented. He hit the ball like nobody did.
It's interesting. I'll tell you a story that happened many years ago. There was this young kid playing for India called Harbhajan Singh. For some reason, I was the only person other than the team invited to Saurav's house for dinner that day. And I said, so when are you going to declare tomorrow? So what do you think about tomorrow? I didn't even say declare. And he said to me, what do you even declare? He said, we are going to win. And India had lost very badly in the previous test. Suddenly this test, Australia way ahead. But you did something else. You called this young kid. He was very shy that time. He was just standing there and you said, come here. And he trotted up. You know how these little kids are. There's a captain and he's standing like this. And you told me this young man is going to win it for me tomorrow. Now, while I was listening to you telling me that, I was imagining that I was Harbhajan. And I was thinking, do I take pressure on myself that the captain has told the commentator of tomorrow's game that he is going to win me the game? Or do I think he has so much faith in me that he's telling the commentator tomorrow that this man is going to win it?
And that was his first test after comeback.
Yeah, it was first series.
It was first series. He didn't play he played in Bombay. He did well. And second test match of the series. He got 7 for in the first.
So how do you reach that stage? I'll come back to what I asked you before, that person doesn't get burdened by what you have told in front of other people.
Because I've told that to him for the last 10 days. Because I want him to be at the best. I want him to perform. And the only way he can do is if I lift him up. If I push him down, he'll fail in any case. If I lift him up, I still have a chance that he'll perform. And I think it works, as I said, having faith in that person, showing that I have faith in you. As I said before, I pick someone to succeed and not to fail. And he was fantastic that tour.
Building a team is as much about lifting people up. Sometimes there are people who don't believe in themselves. They're good, they don't believe in themselves. I benefited from that in my own life. So there are players like those. But it's also about knowing when to let go a certain player. And I think that must be far more difficult than picking people up. Keeping people is one skill, but just as important is when a player can no longer deliver. Maybe he's struggling, you kept faith, but a stage will come when in your mind this player can no longer deliver. So how do you handle that situation of letting people go?
So it happens over a period of time. It doesn't happen abruptly. As I said, the first criteria is you pick someone to succeed.
Correct.
And then you keep backing him. And when you see that he's not performing, he understands. Then when you have a conversation with him, it's a lot easier. I firmly believed, as I said, you don't pick players to fail, you pick players to succeed. And once you communicate that message over a period of time, and then it gets to a stage where he's not. I have had players who come and told me, I'm not performing, you need to leave me out.
Serious?
Yeah, I have had players that I'm not up to the mark.
It's a very rare thing to happen in a team.
That you leave me out and I'll have you back. I've had Sehwag telling me at times, I'm not playing well. You leave me out and find another opener. So it's a continuity, it's a process, which one leads to the other. And so my discussion with Sehwag against Pakistan, when he got beaten by pace in both the games, I would have gone and told him that, no, everything's fine. You'll have your time, you'll go back and play. But I had to be honest with him and tell him that, you're not playing well enough. You're behind the pace. You go back and get better and come, and it's not the end of the road. And the relationship never finished there. I would call him up a month later, weeks later, find out what's happening, how is he going. So it's about a relationship which builds over a time. Success is not just about putting him in a batting order and let him do what he wants. If you have to build a good team, you have to spend time with people who you work with. And I firmly believe that. So it helps. It helps in asking him to go. It helps in asking him to be here. I have had conversations with Ashish when I've left him out. He've come and told me that I'm your best bowler. Why am I out? I had to sit and listen to him for half an hour and understand, respect his discussion, respect his thought processes, and then take a call. So as I said, it's about relationships.
The other thing, and it's truer of sport than it is maybe of corporate life, but it's true of corporate life as well, that when you lead a team, you are also part of that team. So at one level, you're a leader, at one level, you're part of a team. Say you're a zonal manager. You are responsible for delivering performance yourself and for generating performance from others, which is what a cricket captain is. At what point, because there are a lot of captains who are so concerned with the other 10 that they forget the 11th who's themselves.
That's a balance. All
How do you figure that out? Because finally, you're telling Sehwag you're behind the ball, but you have to go and play the same ball too.
it's a mental switch. I wouldn't find any captain who's not bothered about the other 10. Then you can't be captain.
But how do you remember the 11th? That is yourself.
As I said, it's a switch. When you're a leader, you have, and that's why you've been asked to be a captain. You have to manage others and manage yourself too. And I think that's very, very important. The hardest thing was as a captain, when you walked out to bat, the opposition has got 350 and you're 50 for 3. So do you think as a captain or you think as a player? And that adjustment happens with time. And then you have to put the scoreboard behind and look to play. Because if you're looking at the scoreboard, you won't be able to perform. So it's a challenge, but that's what is expected of leadership, is to have two compartments, my team and me. As all both have to perform. If the team doesn't perform, I don't win. If I don't perform, I don't stay as well. So it's a compartment you create. And that switching off and switching on has to happen with experience.
But that's not easy.
Now it's not easy and you have to make an effort to do it.
Because you told me once, many years ago, that I have already told Rahul Dravid that when he becomes captain, he has to separate his role as India's premier number 3 batter and his role as captain. And I would like to believe it's not as easy, whether you're a manager or whether you're a captain, because as a manager, you're really trying to get everyone to deliver, but your boss is sitting on your head too.
Yeah, absolutely. You are being monitored as well.
Yeah.
It's not
So
just
you were being monitored too.
you're being monitored as a captain and monitored as a player. So you've seen with time that many of the leaders have decided to give away after a period because they found themselves too overburdened with too many responsibilities. And I think that's the challenge as a captain. Some excel, like Kohli did. You look at his numbers as a player and as a captain. And there have been many instances in world cricket. Mark Taylor is one. Ben Stokes is one. They excel as captain. And these are characters who want to take things head on and want to face situations, face problems and find a solution to it. I've always said the art of leadership is about solving problems. It's not about letting it drag for a period, whether it's you're off form, your player's off form. And you look at it positively, that if I'm captain and if I'm struggling, I get that extra innings more than the other one because I'm captain and that helps me. But the challenge is to make two compartments, that as a player and as a captain.
Because it comes back in an earlier episode, we talked about trust. I mean, I didn't play cricket at anywhere near the level that some of these people played, but we were playing an inter-college final once. And in all the previous games, the captain had opened the batting. We were playing on a turf wicket. We hardly played on turf wickets in Hyderabad. And the ball was doing things. We had a Ranji Trophy bowler at the other end. And he suddenly came to us and said, on this kind of pitch, पीछे से पकड़ के खेलना पड़ता है. So he dropped down to 5 or 6. It is 50 years, 60 years almost since that happened. No, 50 years since that happened. I'm not as old as all that. I still don't have respect for that person. So as a captain, how do you keep building that respect in tough situations? Because you have to be in those too. You can't take a backward step yourself.
No, you can't, because it just flows down to the team and players notice. Players notice, people notice. So as I said, it's a lot harder than it looks. The best thing about the job captain is only the word C and your name comes on the top of the team list. The rest is you have to make an effort.
He also told me once many years ago, he said, when they give you the captaincy of India, they also give you grey hair with it.
Grey hair, hair loss, everything. It's not just the grey. I remember Sehwag telling me, till you asked me to open, I had all my hair. Once you asked me to open, everything went away. So
that's an interesting one, actually. When you're looking at building teams, when you're looking at sustaining teams, it's also about identifying who can do what.
Yeah.
Now, in your team, you had 3, 4, 5, 6 who are as good as any that have played for India. And yet, you had to find a role for a Sehwag. The easiest thing in the world is to find someone else to open the batting. how do you convince people to take on roles that they may not believe in themselves? They may not want to do it, they may not believe in it themselves, but you see something in them that makes you think they can do it.
You just have to push them into that role.
And if they're reluctant,
Doesn't matter. You're
I love
captain.
how you say it doesn't matter.
You're captain and you have to take a decision. That's why you're captain. And I remember going and saying it to that individual that you're wasting your talent in the dressing room. You'll not be a player by sitting in the dressing room. And I had examples, Matthew Hayden, Justin Langer. They were not openers in Test cricket. And it was just before the Sehwag era. So that helped me to push. I said, you're so talented. You cannot sit in the dressing room and you won't get a place in 3, 4, 5, 6 because you have Dravid, Tendulkar, Ganguly and Lakshman. So you take a call. Either you're going to sit in the benches for a year or you're going to go and play for India. And he went up. I keep telling him that you would have been half the player if you would have opted out to bat in the middle order. He doesn't agree, but it's important that you take people out of the comfort zone. Sometimes when you're pushed to do things and you accept to do it, it's actually for the better. My position in one day cricket, Sachin's position in one day cricket, because they were pushed up at the top of the order. And Sachin at number 6 wouldn't have been 1/4 of the player at Sachin as an opener. So sometimes when people push you to do things which you don't want to do, it can actually be better. But these are easier said now because with experience you do it. But when you're a young player, you sometimes might feel, I've been targeted. It's about me batting at Lords at number 3. Seaming pitch, new ball, England. Many thought I'll fail. But I became a player because I got an opportunity to got 100.
I can tell you now, the narrative was he's being sent out to fail.
Yeah, I know that. But it's about looking everything as an opportunity. When you're asked to bat at 3, it's an opportunity to succeed. There are 2 ways of looking things in life. One is it's a pressure. The other one, it's an opportunity. And the more you keep going that direction as an opportunity, the more successful you will be.
When you're building teams, there could be days when you're a little uncertain about a decision.
Many days.
Does every leader need a sounding board within? Saying, okay, let me just bounce an idea. It's like a striker. I pass to you, pass back to me, but I'll pass to you. What do you think?
The best units have a leadership team, core. And I had that in my squad. Because I am human, I'll make mistakes, I'll take wrong decisions.
Did people come up and tell you make a mistake?
No. If I'm in doubt, I'll go and ask, what do you think?
No, after you have taken a call, if someone came up, say, I'm talking of model teams. If someone came and said, Skipper, you got that wrong.
So be it, because I had to make a decision before.
Yeah.
And you are giving me an answer after. So I never believed in all that. I went to people who would give me a decision before the thing happened rather than after. If I've made a decision, everything will not be correct. There will be a few which will go wrong, accept it and move on to the next one because I have been given a job to make a decision.
There are many good teams and you see over the years, there have been some fantastic teams. Manchester United was a fantastic team. Barcelona was a fantastic team. India went through a phase, hopefully will go through a phase. In white ball at the moment, going through a phase where they're fantastic phases. But yet as a leader, you must know when this team is coming to an end. Because sport is finally physical in nature. How do you find that moment? How does a Ferguson know the time has come for me to realign my team? The time has come for me to say, Keane, thank you very much. The time has come for Barcelona to say, you're Messi, but thank you very much.
It's not easy. It's hard. But sport helps you because as you grow older, it becomes a lot difficult and a lot easier for someone to make a decision. So it's a balance between at what stage of your career you are, if you can still keep going up, or you're getting to a point of 35, 36 where it's not going up anywhere. But some have actually even performed at that age. I remember Dravid going through a situation of 3 years without a test 100 away from home. And I asked him that question in England in 2011. I asked him, how many more years? He said, I don't know. Let's see how this series goes. And he got
300s in
400s in that 4 test match. So with champions, it's never over. With good players, with successful people, because they keep believing, because they keep working hard, it's never over. And I've always said with people that in life, it's never over till you actually believe it's over. And when you speak to great players, you will see that music never stops. They know when to go and when to finish. And as an individual, you also get that feeling when you look into the eye. And there have been instances. Sport is about coming back. Or life is about waking up every morning and believing that you can do it.
You look at marginal players and see, did I think that player would be so good? Why is that player overperforming from what I thought he would? And I think that is where the leader's ability to create a team is so important.
Absolutely. You create an atmosphere to perform and create an environment for others to succeed. It's not about failing at this level. It's about succeeding at this level.
Such a beautiful thing, trust. And I mean, I've seen it from a distance. I've seen myself in those situations. And often I try to link sport with management as well. And that's why I'm curious to know a bank that over the last 10 years has done so remarkably well. Very keen to know how a Bandhan Bank builds that trust among its employees, among its customers. It'll be something I'd love to know.
As you rightfully said, Harsha, trust does not only shape cricket teams, it shapes institutions. To share how trust guides decisions and relationships at Bandhan Bank, we are joined by Mr. Ratan Kesh, Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you, Sourav. I believe that building trust is one of the most important responsibilities of a leader, especially in banking. Customers place their savings, they place their deposits, they build their dreams for future, that wonderful home, the children education, with the trust that they repose on us every single day. Trust comes from consistency and transparency. It grows when the team feels empowered to take decisions and when the communications are open and respectful. It is our responsibility as leaders to build, nurture, grow, and respect customers' trust. And for that to happen, we need to ensure that we are building trust within the organization. Let's take, for example, a particular branch. Once each and every team member within that branch start trusting each other, believe in each other, and make them feel empowered, that trust gets translated into the customer's eyes. Similarly, between the various teams within the organization, whether it is from a branch to information technology, to operations, to digital, to product, we need to ensure that we are building trust among various teams within the organization with that simple ethos of transparency, communication, respect, empowerment, and belief. And once we do that, that trust will get manifested in the eyes of the customer, and the customer will see that trust and repose more faith in us and bring their deposits, bring their business to us.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh, for your perspective. Trust is not just a value, it is the way of working. It allows people to bring out the best in themselves and in each other. This was episode 3, The Trust Factor. In our next conversation, we explore another cornerstone of leadership, the ability to stay grounded and resilient. Until then, remember that trust is built in small moments, and those moments can change everything.